Hello and welcome to another new episode of Leading with Women by Ego Monk. Joining us today is Sheena Iyengar. She is a professor at Columbia Business School and has specialized in the study of choice, decision making, and its economic consequences. Her book, The Art of Choosing, is a global bestseller, and her research is often cited by the BBC, Wall Street, and The Economist. Despite a genetic disorder which left her blind at 16, Sheena has not let it deter her from the path of striving for excellence. Hello, Sheena, and thank you for joining us on this platform and agreeing to speak with us.
It's great to be here.
So, Sheena, let's just start with what we are going to talk a lot about. What is it about choice that makes it so powerful?
I think we often think that what makes choice powerful is that when you have choices, you feel that you can do better in terms of picking that which is better for you, that enables you to be more likely to get what you want. And I do think that choice plays that essential role in our lives. But I think that the aspects of choice that are much more powerful than the ability to pick really comes from two things. First, when we believe ourselves to be choosers, when we have that mindset, that's incredibly powerful. Because what that does for us is it enables us to see choice where others see no choice. That's first incredibly powerful. And second, it enables you to create meaningful choices. Because let's face it, most of life hands you rather inane or irrelevant or illusory choices. So if you're able to use choice to do those two things for yourself, see choices where others see no choice, and to create meaningful choices for yourself, that's where the true power of choice comes from.
All right. But Sheena, in our economy, and especially in the extremely consumer-based economy that we have, we as consumers make a lot of choices, and these are choices which all brands are counting on. So, how do brands increase their sales by optimizing the choices that they offer to us, the consumers?
Well, brands seem to harbor the illusion that they need to just bombard us with more and more and more choice, because the more choices they give us, the more likely I am to find something that you have to offer me, and I'll buy it, and that's how little by little, with everybody buying a little bit of each of their various choices, this will enhance their revenue. And so if you look at it, most companies, that's what they're doing. They're bombarding you with a lot of choice, most of which are not that different from one another. There'll be minor differences between the choices. I think on balance, that actually deludes any given company's brand. Notice how the greatest brands, the most famous brands in the world, are the ones that do not bombard us. And that's true whether you're talking about, foods, like McDonald's or Shake Shack or the fanciest restaurants. They are not bombarding us with too much choice. It's true whether you're looking at designers, like Prada or Chanel or Versace. I mean, these are all brands that very much come up with one or two big themes and stick to that, because that's how we remember them.
But then, how does it really come through? I mean, then there has to be this powerful, even if they're presenting us with one item, it's then purely based on the differentiation qualities that they have. They have to create an impact.
That's right. Because no matter what company you've consumed, you probably only know them for one big thing anyway. There's very, very few companies that manage to have an identity that allows for too much choice. The one big example of that is Amazon.
All right.
Now, interestingly enough, you know Amazon for also one thing, which is it's the go-to place for convenience. You can buy anything and everything. It's convenient. It may not be the very best. It may not be the very best price anymore, but it's convenient. That's literally what they're selling, convenience, right? But as part of convenience, they're selling you too much choice. They're not actually known for any one thing. They started off selling books, but we don't really think of them anymore as just a book seller. But it's not going to be easy for anybody else to have that identity because that's Amazon's brand. Most brands, no matter who they are, the ones that stick out, it's because they're selling you one big idea. That one big idea may have many layers to it. Say like Disney. There's many layers to it. Netflix, notice how it expands its brand, but it's one big idea. So the choice maker or creator is thinking in terms of what are the various variations of objects or ideas that they can create. But the chooser doesn't know what the choice maker is thinking.
Okay.
The chooser is simply looking at this marketplace. Think of a store just cluttered with all these things in it, right? And when that chooser is looking at the world with all these bits coming at them, they're looking at what stands out and how do I organize my world. And I'm looking for a brand where I say, okay, this company stands for this thing, and that's what I care about. That's what I like them for. That's how I know them. And if that particular company stands for too many things such that I can't organize it in my head, I have a hard time remembering them. So remember that the goals of the choice creator and the goals of the chooser are not always aligned.
Okay, so this marketplace that you talk of, when we right now talk of certain products, we actually seen this happening so much now. We're scrolling YouTube and we see ads, and we are scrolling Facebook, we see things which are are commodities which interest us. We're seeing so many options and then we're tempted to buy them. So in this, doesn't the nexus of technology, advertising, marketing, all of this create an echo chamber which somehow mimics the illusion of choice or free will?
Sure, I agree with that. We get seduced into buying stuff without thinking about it. And I don't know if we always know if that's something we really wanted or not. I think I don't think we can put a scientific number on this, but I would say as my rule of thumb is I would say about 90% of the choices we make on autopilot.
Okay.
We're not actually thinking about it. And so we just get seduced on a regular basis. So unless you proactively think about and ask yourself the question, wait, is this something I really want? How would I use this? What problem is this solving for me? Sure, we end up buying a lot of useless things.
So a way for a consumer to actually regain control is to introspect and ask whether I want this or not.
Yes. And what problem is this solving for me?
All right. So in this context then, you work with a lot of corporates, and as you explained to me how a choice maker functions, you are aiding these corporates to help them better understand and how to attract more consumers. In this, what does your moral compass tell you when they use psychology to sell more? Is there an ethical dilemma that you face by helping them influence opinion?
Sure. I mean, many marketers create an illusion of choice. They tell you choices are different when they're really not that different. Or they sell you choices that you don't really need. And so I think what you need is an environment in which we as choosers are much more proactive about thinking about what do we really need, what do we really not need, so that we're wiser about the choices that are presented to us. And I think that's a very hard thing to do, as we're seeing in not just our consumer environments, but in our political environments, right? We're bombarded with all kinds of information bits too, where we don't know what's truth, what's fiction, what's the real story or just a partial story. I mean, there's all different ways in which we're constantly getting seduced and deceived.
Yeah.
And one of the few things that we don't teach in school, which we probably need more than anything else right now, is on how to choose.
Okay.
And so I actually think that the answer lies in enabling us, whether we're consumers or voters or citizens, to be more actively thoughtful about choice. That's our best protection.
But in this, the onus would then fall on the consumer themselves. What about those selling? Is there an ethical dimension to them being more careful about what they present to consumers?
I do think that those brands who are more thoughtful about giving people choices that are meaningful for people, in the long run, they do benefit.
Okay. And if you could just tell us, what is your criteria for meaningful here? Does it mean that it's maybe helping us, as you said, maybe solve a problem, maybe do something good for the environment, maybe the production process is not harmful? So what are the criteria for
I mean,
meaningful?
it could also be just something pure fun,
Okay.
you know, like Disney World. I mean, I don't, you know, it's just giving you pleasure. But as long as you are transparent about what is the choice, what is it actually providing you, for what purpose, that makes it easier for. So look, what is it that a consumer really wants? The consumer really wants to know that they were competent when they were choosing, meaning they understood why they chose what they chose and what it's actually giving them. And that enables the consumer to be confident about what they chose, because they essentially want to, you know, defend. Hey, I'm going to Disney World, I'm getting this massage, I'm getting this product, these are the reasons why. So I think the most important thing that is both useful for the choice creator and the chooser is to really create choices where you're transparent about what it is and what are the trade-offs associated with it, and then let the consumer be empowered enough to decide if that's what the chooser really wants.
So transparency is key here.
The transparency is key here, because I can't decide for you if you should have fun at Disney World or not.
All right.
Right? That's for you. I mean, that's not my job to be so paternalistic to decide that. But I do have an obligation to make sure you know what it is and that you're not tricked.
Okay. So tell me, Sheena.
And by the way, I would say that is true whether we're talking about a consumer product or a politician.
All right. I think, yes, that very similar. What politicians try and sell, and unless they're transparent, we just don't know what we're heading into.
Mm-hmm.
No, I love that analogy. So Sheena, tell us, does choice manifest differently in the global north versus the global south?
Yes, I think that in Asian countries, there is more of a expectation that my government or my elders, respected others, will in some fashion tell me what to choose. And that the way that I as a chooser feel empowered is by knowing what those who know more or better would advise that I choose. There is this underlying assumption that I will choose better if I get advice or direction from others. And that's true whether they're deciding whom to marry, what job to undertake, what to do about their health, or maybe what to eat. By contrast, in European and America and the United States, you have more of this underlying assumption that says, look, if I'm going to be the consumer of it, whether it's an idea or a product or a lifestyle, I should be the one to choose it. And there's nobody else who would know better than me as to what would be good for me. Others might give me opinions, but you know what? Those opinions are not, they're just on the side. Really, I'm the best decider, the best judge. I think those are two equally valid assumptions. I wouldn't say that one is superior to the other. I think they both have different trade-offs. So ideally, one of the things that I really try to do as an Indian American is I try to understand both philosophical positions and try to create a hybrid where I, to the extent possible, steal from both ways of thinking so that I can use that to make the choices that are most important to me.
No, and I remember reading this article, it was an interview published in the New York Times where they were discussing the furniture in your room, and you had actually said that I asked everybody, but then I made it very clear that what they're telling me or what they're advising me is just that it's advice. The final decision is going to be mine. And since they are not under the pressure of, making the choice for you, they're actually more truthful when they're giving their opinions. It actually helps you come to a more balanced decision.
So I'm actually working on my new book right now. I'm almost done writing it. It's called Think Bigger. But one of the things that I talk about in there is something I call idea networking. And I think, and that's actually a very valuable way to get feedback. Most of the time we think that the way you get feedback is you walk up to somebody, you show them something or you explain them something and you ask them, what do you think? Do you like it or you don't like it? It's a terrible idea. Who cares if they like it or they dislike it? That's not helpful to you. Really what you want to ask them is, does this remind you of something? What about this works? How would you improve this? Or you explain to them a problem and you say, not how would you solve it, but you say, have you seen anybody solve this? Can you give me an example?
So it's more prodding, would you say? It's more in depth?
It's more information gathering.
Okay.
You should not ask people to critique. You should ask people questions in a way that gets them to give you information. That's what's most helpful.
Okay. No, that's very insightful. And we can't wait for the new book. As one of our final questions, Sheena, how did you process your self-worth in light of your disability?
So, I am a blind Indian American female woman. And that meant that there were lots of challenges growing up. And, nobody, what we started off by talking about was you asked me what is the power of choice? And I would say that when I was growing up, people either gave me awful choices or didn't know what choices I would have. And so there was always this sense of what would become of me. And I think that the very fact that nobody knew what to do with me, whether it was Indians, whether it was Americans, whether it was sighted people, whether it was blindness professionals, Nobody really gave me good answers about what my choices could be. I think that's what really led me, both in terms of my academic interests, in terms of my life's work, as well as in my personal life. Whenever I have had a problem, I force myself to take that problem and ask myself, okay, exactly what's that problem and what solution can you create? Because I understand that people don't know the answer. It's not that they're trying to be mean. It's not that they're trying to be condescending and force me into a life that I don't want. They just don't know. And so it's my job to figure out how to create that choice. And I think that all too often we have this assumption that if we just wait around or look hard enough, the perfect choice will present itself to us like truth. But really, each of us has to ask ourselves, how do we construct the most useful combinations for ourselves?
Thank you so much, Sheena.